The reading is from the Holy Gospel according to Mark.
Let us be attentive.
Glory to you, O Lord. Glory to you.
At that time, Jesus, taking the 12 again, he began to tell them what was to happen to him, saying, "Behold, we are going up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be delivered to the chief priests and the scribes, and they will condemn him to death and deliver him to the Gentiles. And they will mock him and spit upon him and scourge him and kill him. And after 3 days he will rise." And James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came forward to him and said to him, "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you." And he said to them, "What do you want me to do for you?" And they said to him, "Grant us to sit, one at your right hand and one at your left, in your glory." But Jesus said to them, "You do not know what you are asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I drink, or to be baptized with the baptism with which I am baptized?" And they said to him, "We are able." And Jesus said to them, "The cup that I drink you will drink, and with the baptism with which I am baptized you will be baptized. But to sit at my right hand or at my left is not mine to grant, but it is for those for whom it has been prepared." And when the 10 heard it, they began to be indignant of James and John. And Jesus called them to him and said to them, "You know that those who are supposed to rule over the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great men exercise authority over them. But it shall not be so among you. But whoever would be great among you must be your servant, and whoever would be first among you must be slave of all. For the Son of Man also came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many."
Peace be unto you who proclaims the good news of the gospel.
Glory to you, O Lord. Glory to you.
Let's go outside.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, good morning. This is from Richard Foster's Celebration of Discipline. True righteous service comes through human effort. Self-righteous service comes through human effort. True service comes from a relationship with the divine, other side, deep inside. Self-righteous service is impressed with the big deal. True service finds it almost impossible to distinguish the small from the large service. Self-righteous service requires external rewards. True service is content in its hiddenness. Self-righteous service is highly concerned with results. True service is free and does not need to calculate the results. Self-righteous service picks and chooses whom to serve. True service indiscriminate in its ministry. Self-righteous service serves in effect with moods and whims. True service simply and faithfully serves because of it's needed. Self-righteous service is temporary. True service is a lifestyle. Self-righteous service is without sensitivity. It insists on meeting the needs even though to do so would be destructive. True service can be withheld the service if it, as freely as it's performed. Self-righteous service fractures the community. True service, on the other hand, builds the community. We just heard the gospel passage where Jesus talks about how he's going to be giving the ultimate sacrifice, the ultimate giving of his life. He's going up to Jerusalem to be crucified. In the midst of it, you hear James and John bickering over one in place of honor. And Jesus recognizes this, and he tells them that true growth, true spiritual growth comes from both humility and service. And so that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about our giving, our serving, and the motivations behind our service. We heard over the last few weeks the importance of prayer and fasting and how that helps prepare us in our spiritual journey. Well, the third leg of Lent, Great Lent, is giving. Not only financial giving, but giving ourselves in service. And I don't want to talk a lot about financial giving because if your heart's right with God, I don't have to convince you. You already know it, it's in your heart. If your heart's not right with God, then Father's always asking for money. He always says money, money, money. And so that's kind of the attitude you perceive. So if that is your perception on giving in the church, be prayerful on that. What I do want to talk about is giving in terms of our service. Need to ask ourselves, if we left the church, would there be any vacancy or void in the church? Would something not get done if I left the church? And if the answer to that is, no, they wouldn't miss me, then we need to say, what ministry can I get involved in? There's some ministry one way or the other that we can get involved in. On the website, we had someone come in and talked about how they were entomologists. Well, if we might have a pest problem, that'd be a good resource we'd have. That'd be a ministry that someone could come. But there's just so many different ministries. We all have different skills and talents, and we can all give in the ministry to the church in some way or the other. So we need to be asking ourselves, am I in the ministry of the church? If not, be prayerful on how you can be a minister to the church in the ministry. And finally, I want to talk about our motivation for giving. If you get a bunch of clergy together and you talk about, I'm talking about Protestants or whatever, Protestants, even non-Christians, and talk about problems you have, one of the problems that comes up is, what do you do with those things that people give to the church and they're now obsolete? It's only exaggeration of this joke saying, you can't get rid of that burnt out light bulb. My great-grandfather gave that years ago. And basically it's a sign of we give for the wrong reasons. So, why do we give and serve the church? Is it for our external reward? Are we doing it so we can be seen, so we can get on a brass plaque or some other form of recognition? Do we give? Or do we serve and give because we want to be seen our names in some publication? Is that the reason we're giving? Jesus talks about this in the gospel. He says, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Give in secret. Think of it as there's two ledgers, so to speak. There's a ledger being kept on earth, and when we do things for men and be seen by men, then we have our reward, as Jesus says. On the other hand, if we do it not to be seen by men, but to do it to serve God, then it goes up in our heavenly register, a ledger. And so that's really where we want to be. That's where we want to be serving God. We want to be recognized for our heavenly work by God, not to be seen by man. So when we do things for the church, we need to be prayerful of our motivation and see why we're doing it. Are we doing it to be seen? Are we doing it to serve God? And finally, I will ask this question in terms of, where do you want your mansion? Do you want a mansion on earth that's basically filled with material possessions, recognition, things so that other people see who you are? Or do you want your mansion in the second life where God sees things that are happening, you're recognized for what you do in heaven? So as we go about this week and we continue on with Lent, let us recognize our need to give and our serve and make sure our motivations are pure. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Good morning, everyone. Kalimeras. Just a few quick announcements for us and one invitation before I invite everyone to come and receive Andidiron. First, some little housekeeping issues. Not issues, blessings. As we know, Palm Sunday is but a week away, and then we enter into the beautiful experience of Holy Week, and then after Holy Week, we enter into the celebration of Pascha. I look forward to it. And then, less than 2 weeks after that, we have the once-in-the-lifetime of a community experience of the consecration of our main sanctuary. We know we've been preparing multiple different ways, and it's been a beautiful journey up till this point. Just a few quick announcements with regards to the consecration weekend. Please, if you would like to have names of your loved ones, both living and deceased, that will be included on the scrolls that will be sealed in the altar table at the consecration. We are at the 11th hour. Please stop by the consecration table in the hall today to get the form to be able to submit those names. If you have not done so yet, please do so today, or else the window is closed. Also, we've had a wonderful response in terms of people signing up to be here, letting us know so that we can prepare for the dinner that will take place Friday night here on campus. As you know, our community is providing a complimentary, beautiful meal Friday evening following the Vesper service here on campus, but we need people to RSVP so that we can adequately prepare. Again, we're at the 11th hour. If you haven't already let them know, please today at the consecration table in the hall, let them know that you and or your family would like to be here with us that Friday evening. We're already filled in terms of the hall, but I look forward to seeing it overflow and putting tables anywhere that they can fit on our campus because so many people want to be here and celebrate. Today, the 11th hour. And finally, the Saturday evening gala and fundraiser that's taking place the day of the consecration, that'll take place at the local country club. We are almost filled, but there are still a few more spots. If you have not yet made a reservation and you would like to be there for the gala that will take place Saturday evening, it'll be a great night. Please, consecration table today, we're a little bit past the 11th hour, but we still have a window open for you to be able to get in. Now, the last invitation that I have is this. We're entering into the final week of Great and Holy Lent. You know, Lent doesn't go all the way to Pascha. Lent goes all the way to the Friday before the Saturday of Lazarus. This Friday is the last day of Great Lent. And so here we are in the final stretch. And I want to invite every single one of us, whether we've been participating in the Lenten journey or not, to take this invitation very seriously. In this final week, dedicate yourself to prayer. I don't say that as a philosophical given because I'm the priest standing here in robes on a Sunday morning in front of a congregation. I say it as a very real invitation because every single one of us as individuals, each one of our households, our spiritual family here at St. Basil's, Houston Metro, our country and the entire world needs our prayers this week. It's a mess. The world's a mess. If you don't recognize that, you've been hiding under a rock, or you've already been deceased and buried. You just don't know it yet. And perhaps, just perhaps, one of the reasons why the world is in the state that it's in, why we've allowed it to get to the state that it's in, is because I'm not praying enough. And maybe you're not either. This final week of Great and Holy Lent, dedicate yourself to prayer. If you haven't made it to any of the Lenten services yet, come this week. Tomorrow night at 6 o'clock p.m., we'll have the Compline service. Wednesday at 6:30, we'll have the service of the pre-sanctified liturgy, and you can come and receive Holy Communion. Saturday morning, right after Lent is complete, we'll celebrate the Divine Liturgy here at 9 o'clock a.m. for Saturday of Lazarus, and then after that, we'll have our youth retreat that will take place. Pray more this week than you have in the previous weeks. At home, beef up your individual prayer lives. If you don't pray at home on a regular basis, start this week. Make it a discipline and say, this final week of prayer, this final week of Lent, I am going to pray. In the mornings and the evenings, at the very least, even just for a moment. Begin with the Lord's Prayer and then go beyond that. Pray for yourselves, for your family, for our spiritual family. Pray for me. and Father John and Father Dimitri and Deacon John and His Eminence and His grace. Pray for those victims, those poor children, and the teachers at the school in Tennessee. Even pray for that mentally ill girl who committed that heinous crime. Pray for the entire nation and pray for the entire world. I just read today that an Orthodox Christian monastic, an abbot at one of the greatest and most historic monasteries in Ukraine, was just arrested. The world's a mess. People of faith are under assault, and it's affecting all of us. Is it because you and I haven't been praying enough? It's 1 week to go in Lent. Let's make the commitment here and now today to pray more than we did last week for ourselves, our families, our church, and the world. With our prayers, the gateway opens wider of invitation for Christ to come and redeem us. Will we welcome Him? Will we make the gateway wide open and clean the path? It'll be seen whether or not you and I choose to pray more this week. With that being said, I invite everyone to come forward at this time to receive the blessings of the Andidaron from Father John, who gave a beautiful homily today, and to go about your day in peace. God be with us all.